You know I've got it. You know I've got it. Sandy? Documents and say you own the hangar now because it's a milestone. It's a milestone of growth. If you're not familiar with Blue Air training, and I know some of us, this is a new concept here in Pensacola. It was a new concept to the Air Force in 2008 when I came back from Afghanistan. I had to control, as an A-10 pilot and forward air controller, I had to control in my 56 gunfights, 9 of them, there was no airstrike controller even on the ground. And our young Americans were out there fighting for our freedom and trying to, via sat phone, call back and explain through the telephone game that someone's shooting at them from the rocks. So as part of my master's thesis, I did the research, and there was a bottleneck in training due to lack of air support. So that gap and that need was identified. And as an active duty Air Force officer, I proposed to the Air Force, why don't we find a company to do this for us? Our young men and women are going out in harm's way without the proper training they need. So the Air Force at the time said, we're the Air Force, we'll never need to contract with Air Force. We'll always have airplanes, we'll always have money, we'll always have pilots, we're the Air Force. So in 2009, I took over the green flag exercise at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. That is the pre-deployment close air support exercise for the Air Force. Close air support meaning if we were in a gunfight, there's someone across the parking lot or across one of the trees and an airplane showed up, the guy on the ground, which is who we train, the guy on the ground would have to tell me which tree they're hiding in. Well, there's a lot of detail that goes to that, I'm sure you understand. So that bottleneck in training was still not getting trained out. We were spending $3.2 million for a 2-week exercise and still not getting the training we needed. And the pilots were not getting the training they needed either, because they need training on how to execute the airstrike. So the pilot wasn't proficient and the airstrike controller on the ground wasn't proficient. So in 2008, I founded the company. 2011, I got approval from the Air Force to get really serious about it. And I think they approved it because they still didn't think it was going to be a thing. So we got after it come 2011, and that's what you see today is Blue Air Training. The name of the company, Blue Air, is because the blue air is the good guys, the red air is the bad guys. And we provide our Air Force, which, if we were a country, would rank 72 in the 131 Air Forces of the world per global firepower in the attack category. So we provide that Air Force to train the airstrike controllers on the ground. And it's something that's caught on. It was initially slow and it was politically resisted to start with. And we've grown from a small 50 by 60 hangar where I was the chief of maintenance, the chief pilot, chief of business development, floor washer, bathroom cleaner, and it started and grew to what it is now. We've got 102 personnel across the country. We've got bases across the country. We've just expanded into South America to assist with consulting on counter-narcotic operations. We are in Wales, in the UK, and in 2017, we're the 106th fastest growing company in the United States. 2018, we were the 504th fastest growing company in the United States with 1,005% growth. So with that, it continued to grow. As a Florida State grad with my friend Ashton, we were the #1 Florida State alumni business for the last 2 years running. So what's that all mean? It's all these people in the blue shirts. That's what it means. The dedication they have to protect and provide that Air Force to our warfighters so that our young men and women can go forward, execute this nation's mission, come home safely. It's what we do. So with that here in Pensacola, it signifies a great strategic location, both geographically. This location in Pensacola will service everything in the United States from Amarillo east to include South America and the UK, and eventually Europe until that becomes its own thing. So what we do here as far as aircraft import, as far as aircraft upgrade, servicing, depot maintenance, flying dry missions, so no weapons flying out of Pensacola International, and then live weapons missions flown out of the local Air Force bases onto the local bombing ranges. So there'll be some interesting and new aircraft flying over Pensacola, but rest easy, we're the good guys. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign a commitment to all of you in the blue shirts, the city of Pensacola, and the future growth that we're planning. So, Renee, I think we're in celebration. Any questions? No? She's walking as fast as she can and does hits. Cutting, because it's a ribbon cutting, but Blue Air doesn't do just your regular old vanilla ribbon cutting. It's kind of not who we are. So you might want to make 2 steps left.
We need him.
So anyway, rather than a ribbon cutting, we'll do a champagne cutting. So looking forward to a great future here in Pensacola with Blue Air Training.
Cheers.
All right, so we're inside of the Ready Go. Is that the name of this plane?
It's the A90.
A90. Okay.
For attack.
Okay.
And, this is just one of the planes we use to deliver close air support.
Okay.
This is one of our newer models with all of the glass cockpit and
All right.
upgrades. And we've modified it to be able to drop the ordnance and use the forward-looking infrared, that we use to find targets on the ground and track everything on the ground as well.
So this will be up in the air. Your guys on the. So are you training primarily the guys on the ground to interact with the pilots, or training the pilots to interact with the guys on the ground?
We're exclusively training the guys on the ground. So we're the air support for them, and we play scenarios that we've seen in combat before. We're all retired Air Force fighter pilots that have done a significant amount of this in our previous lives. And so we play those roles and we give them scenarios and problems to solve to make them better at what they do. And this is a great platform to do it.
Essentially feeding you're feeding the training pipeline from Hurlburt primarily, right? I mean here primarily.
Yes, we do. Hurlburt is where all of the guys are trained, Air Force wide. All of the Joint Terminal Attack Controllers are trained, and they go out to different bases. So we support Hurlburt a lot in doing that. And then once they go out, all over the U.S. and actually overseas. We don't train them overseas, but they come over here to exercises, and we train them on our ranges throughout the United States.
Now, as you look around, there's a variety of airframes here. Some in partial disrepair, but a lot of these in good working order. What are the different ones? Are they used for different roles, or are they just we'll use whatever we need to use?
So it depends on the mission or what the requirements are, training that they want. So the jets are primarily used to fulfill our air to ground. We can drop ordnance from all of these, but for certain customers, they want the jets to be able to replicate higher speeds.
Okay.
And meet certain work requirements.
Because the timing of calling in those strikes is going to be a little bit different than working with a propeller.
Yeah. So it all depends on what the customer needs or wants. For one of these, we can drop the ordnance and we can meet those requirements depending on the contract requirements of speed as well, but we also can stay airborne a lot longer. Burns a lot less fuel, so we can stay overhead and give them a lot more training depending on what they want.
How do you I know you've got this to simulate drop and also the ordinary guns. What do you do to simulate like the Spookies, or do you have that capability?
Well, the Spooky, you mean like the AC-130?
Yeah.
That's something that I don't think anybody can simulate. We do integrate with them.
Okay.
out at Hurlburt, we've flown and we'll fly in exercises with them, so they'll be in the stack. We'll be above, or usually above, because they're shooting stuff a lot more than we are, and we just integrate with them in the stack. And so when they have the opportunity to bring on real Air Force assets, we can also work with them as well and give them a full spectrum of air power that they can use to train.
So like anything, training is always just training, but the closer you can get to reality, the better it is.
Exactly.
Very good. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. So they'll take it apart, put it back together.
And that's also a Strike Master, right?
Yes.
Okay, so we got a Strike Master here. We got a Strike Master here. That's a new one you said they're working on putting together.
Yep.
A Romanian propeller, and then on the other side with the best paint in the building, the other Strike Master.
Yes.
Like that one.
Yeah, we call
Outstanding.
that's the Dragon. That used to do air shows.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And what do we have here? The gray one out front?
These are the A90s.
Okay, so
and
that's
those are
another
the
one.
Newest planes that we've added to the fleet, and they'll be coming to workhorse here over the next couple years, and doing a lot of the work that the Strike Masters will take over a lot of that, and they'll be more specialized in doing just specific requirements.
And this is just one, I mean, you know, people may not know, but Blue Air is a nationwide, I mean, you have operations all over the country. This is a pretty significant hangar on its own, but what do you have, what's your total fleet look like?
Well,
I mean, I would guess hundreds, but you tell me if
not
I'm wrong.
hundreds. You'd have to ask, talk to James to get those specifics. I just fly the planes. I don't have the company outlook and perspective that he might have.
What did you fly when you were in the service?
I flew F-16s.
Okay.
And I also flew MQ-9s. So
Oh.
I've done unmanned work as well.
Interesting.
And I actually ended up out at Hurlburt as my last assignment.
Okay.
Doing some of those things.
So flying
all
the
of my-
flying the Reaper and also flying the
Exactly.
the Viper. Very
Yes.
cool. Does the how well does the Strike Master hold up against the Viper in your memory? Is it enough to keep
It's
you
not
happy?
even- It's so the first plane we flew when I went through pilot training was the T-37, and now they fly the T-6, the turboprop. But that is exactly like the T-37, which to put the difference in perspective, when you go from the T-37 to the T-38, it's like that scene in Star Wars where the first time they jump to hyperspace and everything kind of just goes like that. That's how it feels when you go from this plane to a real jet. That's just how much faster you go, and how, just on the takeoff roll, when you light the afterburner, it's a kick in the pants and you're going fast, really fast.
So
it
mostly just makes you sad that it's what it is compared to what it used
It's
to.
actually, I mean, now I'm an old guy now, and I don't need to pull 9Gs and do all the stuff an F-16 can do. That is a really fun plane to fly. It is great fun to go out and drop these bombs on the range for the guys on the ground. You have a 7.62 millimeter gun that, if you're shooting things on the ground from an airplane, I mean, that's the sport of kings. That's one of the funnest things you can do in an airplane, and we still get to do that. So for all of its limitations, as old as it is, it's still a blast to fly.
Something you didn't do often in a Viper, I bet. Versus ground.
No, yeah, I mean, we had to stay current in it, and believe me, getting as close to the ground as we get in this thing in the F-16 is a little more scary because you're going almost twice as fast, and the ground's getting close really fast. But it's a blast to fly. Yeah.
And I'm sorry I didn't get your name and your role. I said you're one of the pilots, but what's your name?
I'm Nathan Hansen. My call sign's Gizmo.
Gizmo. All right, because of the Gremlins.
Because of the Gremlins. Yeah.
All right, we won't ask too many questions.
There's
I know
a
there's
story
always
there, but,
the stories you can tell and the stories you can't tell. That's fine. Well, Gizmo, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.